Tonight, beyond the black door of number 10, something vital is cracking. Not a window, but a nation's faith in its leader. And that broken promise now has one name: Starmer.
Ready to serve our country, ready to restore Britain to the service of working people.
Since the day he stepped into office, electricity bills have surged 52%. Heating costs have tripled. Inflation has swallowed every pay rise in sight. Families are skipping meals just to keep their radiators alive. And tonight, thousands have pushed their way to Downing Street, not holding banners, but holding invoices, evidence of betrayal printed in red and black. They're not shouting ideology, they're shouting survival. This isn't unrest, it's Britain waking up. From Parliament Square to the iron barricades outside number 10, the fury feels different tonight, colder, sharper, undeniable. The chants began at 6 p.m. and haven't faded once. Heat or eat? We won't survive this winter. For the first time in years, the British aren't protesting politics, they're protesting existence itself. Average energy bills have doubled since Labour took power. More than 2 million households have fallen into fuel poverty. Inflation hovers at 9%, wages are frozen, groceries up nearly 20%. People aren't running out of patience, they're running out of money. Police have sealed off 3 streets around number 10, but the crowd keeps swelling. Teachers, nurses, retirees, corner shop owners. Every class pushed to breaking point. Inside those gates, silence. Outside, a nation begging to be heard. This isn't disorder, it's consequence. The instant where quiet suffering transforms into collective defiance, when Britain finally says enough. In 2024, Keir Starmer filled every screen in the country, promising stability after chaos. He vowed Labour would rebuild trust, protect workers and restore compassion to government. But under that calm exterior, something else was forming. Campaign donors linked to offshore energy giants quietly bankrolled Labour's green transition programme. Within weeks of victory, £30 billion in subsidies were approved, most funneling straight to companies based outside the UK. At the same time, domestic heating taxes shot upward and British families began rationing warmth like wartime coal. Starmer's slogan was working people first. The reality was working people last. A Prime Minister who promised fairness delivered only fuel poverty, and when questioned he brushed it off as necessary adjustment. So that phrase became the anthem of arrogance, because to millions now choosing between food and heat, nothing about their suffering feels necessary. By last winter, the numbers told the truth that speeches wouldn't. A 40-year-old bakery in Leeds shuttered. A pub in Cornwall switched off its lights for the last time. A Manchester print shop sold its final order just to pay the energy bill that ended its life. Tonight's crowds didn't erupt out of nowhere. They are the delayed consequence of months, some would say years, of a government insisting everything was under control while quietly tightening the screws behind closed doors. While families rationed heat and queued outside food banks, Westminster held polished briefings declaring the crisis temporary. Ministers pointed to charts predicting imminent recovery, yet every projection evaporated on contact with reality. Each press conference felt more disconnected, more mechanical, more hollow. And the public noticed. They noticed when energy CEOs were spotted leaving Downing Street after midnight meetings. They noticed when bills spiked again only days later. They noticed when ministers dismissed frightened families as victims of misinformation. Trust didn't simply erode, it decayed layer by layer until nothing remained but anger waiting for a spark. And now that anger has direction. It's not random, it's not chaotic, it's focused, precise as a laser. Protesters lift their bills above their heads like evidence in a courtroom. Others hold screenshots of Starmer's campaign promises, each one now a broken pledge. Some carry printouts of interviews where Labour ministers swore energy reforms would lower costs within months. Months became a year. And the only thing that lowered was faith in government. Every sign, every chant, every surge of the crowd is a ledger of betrayal. The noise rolls through Whitehall like a tide. You said we'd be safe. You said you'd protect us. These aren't political slogans, they're accusations. Police lines stand rigid, but even they look uneasy. Officers shift their weight, tighten their grips on riot shields, whisper into radios. A formation designed for rowdy football crowds now faces something heavier. Thousands of ordinary people who have simply run out of options. The barricades shake as more bodies press forward, not with violence, but with desperation. This is Britain at breaking point, not fueled by ideology, but by exhaustion and fear. This is what happens when a nation realises its leaders aren't listening, only calculating. Inside number 10, aides insist the Prime Minister is monitoring the situation closely, but that phrase has lost all meaning. Approval ratings have collapsed, energy reforms are despised, confidence in leadership is evaporating faster than the heat from a cold radiators across the country, and tonight the consequences are visible from every window overlooking Downing Street. Thousands stand shoulder to shoulder, teachers with supermarket workers, students with pensioners wrapped in blankets, nurses beside builders who can't afford to run their vans. A unity forged not by ideology but by shared suffering. The chants rise again, echoing off the stone walls of government. Louder now, sharper, undeniable. We trusted you, you failed us. What's unfolding tonight isn't just a protest. It's the moment Britain finally peers behind the curtain and sees the machinery that has been steering the country while ordinary people struggled in the cold. For months, the government insisted its energy overhaul was not only necessary, but noble. Ministers repeated the same polished lines: transition, resilience, long-term benefit. But each announcement felt less like information and more like insulation. Layers of language meant to shield the truth rather than share it. Contracts worth billions were approved without oversight. Reports were delayed, sanitised, or quietly buried beneath larger headlines. And any journalist who pressed too hard was met with the same robotic reassurance. The public will understand in time, but time is the one luxury people no longer have. Every delayed explanation translated into another missed rent payment, another closed shop front, another night spent shivering under blankets. And tonight, that silence has finally run out because the cracks in the official story began small. A leaked memo, a footnote in a budget report. Then came the whistleblower, a civil servant who anonymously revealed that ministers knew energy prices would surge months before the public was warned. They knew the reforms were rushed. They knew working families would be hit hardest. They even modelled the likely outcomes, including a spike in fuel poverty and regional unrest. Instead of slowing down, they accelerated, determined to meet promises already made to investors, not to British families, to investors. That revelation spread across social media like a shockwave, confirming a suspicion millions already carried. The suffering wasn't an unfortunate side effect. It was an acceptable cost. And tonight's crowd is the proof of that betrayal. People chant not only against the cost of living, but against a government that gambled with their dignity. Pensioners shout beside young parents. Electricians stand shoulder to shoulder with nurses still exhausted from years of crisis. The signs they raise are story statistics never captured. 3 jobs and still freezing heating off since October. We believed you. Every face is a testimony. Every voice part of a collective indictment. When anger becomes this widespread, it stops being political. It becomes moral. Meanwhile, inside the government machine, panic begins to bloom. Advisors move in tight clusters through the corridors of number 10, carrying briefing papers that describe the situation outside not as a protest, but as a public destabilisation event. The phrasing is cold, bloodless, just like the policies that caused it. Speechwriters scramble to produce a statement the Prime Minister might deliver if the unrest grows. but every draft reads hollow. You can't repair a broken promise with a calibrated sentence. And tonight, the people aren't listening for scripted lines. They want accountability. They want honesty. They want someone to step outside and acknowledge what they already know. The government misled them, and the consequences weren't abstract. They were human. Across Whitehall, the crisis mutates into something no minister prepared for. Unity among the people. Not political unity, human unity. Protesters who argued for years now share thermoses of tea. A retired builder wraps his coat around a freezing student. A mother shields her child from the crush of the crowd. This is the Britain politicians claim to defend but rarely understand. A country that protects each other when leadership refuses to. And above it all, one message rises louder than the sirens and chants, echoing off the stone walls of government buildings. Tell the truth. Own what you did and face the people you failed. Tonight, Britain isn't waiting to be heard, it's demanding it. If you want to see what happens next, hit subscribe. This is UK Watchdog. We'll be here tracking this story as Britain decides what kind of nation it wants to be.